I want to give you an overview of Project One. And so in this week's material, you found the link to Project One, working with a text to create a summary. And these pages in our textbook explain what Project One is. So the beginning of this chapter that you read last week talked about a student named Alex, and it walked Alex through this integrated reading and writing project where Alex had to read some material and then write based on what he had read. And in this section with Project One, you are given the actual assignment. And so this explains this in this next to last paragraph here on this page, or actually on the top of 397. To understand how the details connect to the major ideas in a text, you might find it helpful to write a summary. A summary is a shortened version of the source. It contains, in your own words, the main idea of the text, in other words, its thesis statement, the point that it is making, and the major supporting points that develop that thesis statement, the points that support or prove or give evidence for that thesis statement. The purpose of a summary is to provide a brief, objective overview of a text. And so when you write a summary, it's not about you, and it's not about your opinion, it's not about your ideas. It is merely a condensed version, a shortened version of the original text, the text that you have read. So what is the text that I'm asking you to write Project One about? Well, it explains that on page 397. Your assignment is to use an effective reading and writing process that you have been reading about in other chapters that you just read about in the beginning of this previous chapter that was assigned to you last week. To use an effective reading and writing process to write an accurate summary of a selection about psychological constraints. Well, I wonder where you will find that. You will find that at the bottom of, the bottom of 397 on to 398 and 399. The explanation, the inclusion of the text that you will be reading, that you will be writing a summary of. Your summary should include the reading's main idea, its thesis statement, its major supporting points, and any significant supporting details. Your summary should be based on an enhanced outline that you prepare for the reading, and you saw the student Alex work through that last week. It should be written in standard English. It should be free from grammatical, spelling, and formatting errors, and it should conform to MLA style. And I've already given you some information on MLA style in a previous, another video that is in this week's material. So identify your purpose. Why are you reading this text? Well, you are reading it because you have been asked to write a summary of it. And so think about the purpose for reading it. Why are you reading it? From there, then, preview the reading. Think about the topic. And there's information there. There's a link for you with some step-by-step guidance for an integrated reading and writing project. Read about the author. Find out some more about her. Who is Laura King? Why do you care who Laura King is? Well, you have to read an article by her, and so you need to know who she is, and you need to know what her credentials are so that you know if she is worth listening to or not. Is she an expert on this subject? By reading about her, you will discover that she is. And then there is her article. So you will read that article. There are some questions then for you to think about and to go back and check in your reading. If you can't explain some of these answers, you can't give answers to these questions, then you need to look back and reread the article so that you can understand the article thoroughly enough to be able to answer these questions. Then outline and summarize your reading. And then they talk about the steps that you would follow in doing that, thinking about the main idea, thinking about the body paragraphs, the major points, the supporting details, additional information that you need to include. How will you summarize that? What do you need to say at the end of your summary? What does King say at the end of her article? And then put together a draft of your summary. So there is that work, and then information on finishing the assignment. So work back through, make sure that you have done each of these pieces, that you have followed the assignment, that you have revised for organization and for unity, you've revised for development, you've revised for clarity, create a works cited or a reference list, and I have provided that for you in the materials. Make sure that you have not used her words without putting quotation marks around them. Most of the time you will say, according to King, or King says such and such, or King explains, King argues that. So you will use those kinds of phrases to indicate that these are her ideas, not your ideas. Edit your essay using Smart Tracks, and I provided a link for that in the material, and then put your essay in the proper format and submit it. And I have provided a link for you in the course materials, the course content, for you to turn your paper in. Before you turn it in, though, I ask that you submit it to a tutor, and I've provided a link for that in our course materials. Let me get back to our course materials out of this week's material. Here in the under course resources, you can find information about tutoring and Thinking Storm. I encourage you to click on that and to then find out how to submit your paper to Thinking Storm. View our simple instructions on how to access Thinking Storm. So there you can click on that. You also can find information about BCTC tutoring. You can get the schedule for that if you want to go for in-person tutoring on one of our campuses. So submit your paper either in person to a face-to-face session with a tutor where you can talk about what you have done well and what you need to work on, or send your paper in through Thinking Storm, and you will get some feedback on it, and they will return it to you with some comments so that you can revise your paper and then submit it. So that is the first project that you are working on. That is Project 1, based on those pages in your textbook that you have a link to